In 2010, the Southwest Council of Governments, or COG, was awarded a $3 million grant to implement a high-capacity network for the regional governments. The total project, including local matching funds, is $4 million. The grant is a result of Senate Bill 232 and was awarded by the Colorado Department of Local Affairs. The project calls for the completion of last-mile fiber and wireless infrastructure in each of the communities shown, and the creation of a region-wide government network to connect the communities.
So if I could, one last piece I'd like to talk about is, when the project first came out, I wasn't sure how the public-private sector partnerships would evolve, and surprisingly, we have had, and not only surprisingly, but I think it's been a benefit to the regional community that the architects of the SCAN network have developed really solid partnerships and have helped. We talked a little bit earlier about some missing pieces in the project, and so if you look at the Durango to Ignacio Bayfield link, the SCAN came up with a really good partnership, developed a good partnership with Fast Track, and then some other smaller pieces and some larger pieces developed a really good relationship and have been able to work with Skyworks as well. And I think that demonstrates, if you have the right team in place, how we can build regional partnerships so that both public and private sector are benefiting. And hopefully this gets extended as we move forward, so that as I talked about earlier, that network, this core network we're building, keeps expanding, because we keep building better local, regional relationships with both public and private sector.
So the keys to success for the SCAN, I think, going forward will be to maintain or continue to work with service providers as they build out the infrastructure for government needs. And service providers in the sense that, they use the service provider as a revenue or a funding source to complete the infrastructure at a lower cost, hopefully building a network that can be larger than what was initially proposed as a standalone. Going forward, I think that'll be the key to success, is that the service provider and the government agencies are working hand in hand.
With the communities with the open access model, the private service providers like ourselves certainly have seen a cost savings by utilizing the community's infrastructure that we're able to access now through this open access network, and reach these end customers and give them the services that they are required to have to grow their businesses, which inevitably will help economic development within the communities and add jobs and bring more people into the communities. So we do see this as a good success story. I think it is imperative that the focus is kept as it has been, with building out to the government facilities and then utilizing that access capacity that the communities have, whether it be excess fiber, utilization of their infrastructure, conduit systems, so on and so forth. But if we keep focused utilizing that model moving forward, I think it will be a great success that other communities as well will be able to focus on moving forward, and hopefully some additional grant money will become available for those other communities based on the success of what we're doing here locally in the Four Corners.
That too is, we know in other communities that infrastructure has been put in place, and we're waiting for the local governments to figure out how they can work with us to use that network. And so, cosmetically too, you put an infrastructure in place, why have a service provider come in after you and dig all that up again just to put their own infrastructure in place? So other communities haven't been as progressive as what we've seen with the SCAN network today, but we have a lot of projects that we'd like to do, but we're waiting for government to figure out a policy, a procedure to do that, and hopefully going forward, this SCAN can be used as good examples for them to garner a local policy or a regional policy to go work with those communities themselves aren't gonna be, I guess, restricted based on only the incumbent being able to provide enhanced services.
I'm Susan Hackinson, and I've been the acting director of the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments for about the past year and a half. I was brought in just to help shepherd the COG as it matured a little bit. The COG really was started a couple of years ago just purposefully to accept this grant and to build the SCAN network. And it's been a very interesting process to watch it actually not only go in the ground, but to begin to mature and look at the ways that it can really continuously unfold as a tool for efficiency and effectiveness throughout the SCAN region. Each one of the jurisdictions is given a little more flexibility and a brand new way to partner in an efficient way in many different things that I don't know if they contemplated these kinds of issues when they were first initially proposing the SCAN network. Really some really lovely opportunities to have shared services and some shared expertise in many different fields. We could potentially have shared GIS services. We can share IT staff. There's lots of different ways that we can potentially move forward with this secure network. And then it just gives us a lot of flexibility in the entire region to be able to have our partners come in and serve the business community, and as well as some of our other community anchor institutes. So I think it's been a successful program overall. The proof will be in the long-term viability, but at this point it seems like we're building in just some really nice flexibility, some efficiency measures, some effectiveness that all the jurisdictions in this Southwest Colorado Council of Governments region can participate in.
In conclusion, the Southwest Colorado Access Network, otherwise known as the SCAN network, it really began as just a primary goal of connecting government buildings so the governments could control their costs and eliminate some high costs of duplicate services in all of their buildings. This network exceeded that goal by simply allowing these governments to think beyond themselves. And so the first takeaway was we accomplished our goal. The second takeaway was, as we did this, we found we could collaborate and work together, municipality to municipality, county to county, by simply joining forces, buying software together. One project that they're already down the road working on is the law enforcement, by sharing a piece of software, localizing it in that SCAN network, and then the law enforcement agencies can communicate together to take care of business in the Southwest at a much more affordable price by taking advantage of this fiber network. And furthering that thought, governments only survive on tax revenue. This building of this network is not meant to be a money generating adventure. Instead, by putting it in such a location that we partner with our ISPs and they take advantage of our local loops by building the middle mile, connecting all those up, they can provide services to businesses and residents at a much more affordable price. City of Cortez and the City of Durango are already experiencing that phenomenon. We hope to extend that out to the smaller, more rural communities like Pagosa, Ignacio, Silverton, Bayfield, Mancos, Dolores, and Dove Creek. We all have businesses that could use that higher bandwidth. We're hoping that phenomenon continues. So as we look at this, over time, our original thought was simply to connect the buildings. But through this 3-year process, we discovered there was a way to have a much larger return on the investment. So through that great partnership between the Department of Local Affairs and the Southwest COG, we have been able to maximize that $3 million investment with our $1 million match to bring not only lower costs for the government, but also higher bandwidth and lower costs for our commercial and our residential customers as well, which brings a lot more return for all of us. And this project can be repeated anywhere in the state by just simply following the same process. Take what your goal is and then think about how you can maximize that goal and maximize those dollars used. So I would like to thank Colorado Department of Local Affairs, Region 9, the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments, and our local business partners for their participation in the public-private portion of this project, for all of their forward thinking in bringing the SCAN network to a successful conclusion.